Teabag paper or freezer paper or normal printing paper? Which one do you use for foundation paper piecing and when? Let's dive into that in this video. Hi there! My name is Irene. Welcome to a new video on the Sugaridoo channel. In this video I talk about my 3 favorite types of paper for foundation paper piecing and when I use which. So the first type of paper that I want to chat about, which is quite different from the other types of paper, is freezer paper. Freezer paper has a glossy side and a matted side, and you buy it on a roll. And the cool thing about freezer paper is that it sticks to fabric when you iron it. So the glossy side sticks to fabric when you give it a press. So this paper, actually freezer paper, is a little bit different than all the other types of paper because you don't sew through it. The technique for sewing with foundation paper piecing and freezer paper is a little bit different because you don't sew through the paper, but you fold it away and sew alongside it. So the nice thing about that is that you can reuse your pattern piece. When you draw a block on freezer paper, you can reuse it as many times as you like. So when do I use freezer paper? I use freezer paper when I have a block that I'm going to make multiple times in a quilt. When you see the quilt behind me, a big sampler quilt from my book, Sugaridoo Happy Notes, that has a lot of different blocks. So I won't put everything on freezer paper because every block in here is only going to be made twice maximum. So yeah, for that project I won't use freezer paper. But if I would make a quilt where I repeat, for example, the plant block and I repeat that over and over again, then I would draw the plant block on freezer paper so that I can reuse that pattern piece. So freezer paper for quilts that have a lot of the same blocks, so you can repeat your pattern. The other types of paper that I use are Teabag paper and normal printing paper. A Teabag paper is a very thin, see-through type of paper, and it is thin but strong. You can draw on it, you can print it, you can leave it behind your fabric, put it in a washing machine. It's awesome paper. So this type of paper, this Teabag paper, is what I use in a quilt like this. A lot of different blocks, so I draw on the Teabag paper and then I sew through it. And the awesome thing is that for a big project like this, you don't need to rip away all the paper. And that makes Teabag paper my favorite type of paper. The other type of paper that I would use for smaller projects, like making a postcard or making maybe a pin cushion or a pillow, is just regular printing paper. Because when you make a small scale project, it's easy to just run your pattern through the printer and start right away. And when you have a small pattern, then it doesn't matter that much that you need to rip away the paper. For this, ripping away the papers would be quite a lot of work. But for such a small project like a pin cushion or a pillow, it's not that much extra work to take out those paper pieces. So then it's very convenient to just be able to print out your pattern with a normal printer. So those are cases where I would use normal printing paper. When I would do a big project like this, it's also quite a lot of work to hand draw, trace all the pattern pieces on Teabag paper. So for that, there is a little hack that I use. I cut my Teabag paper to printing paper size, or a tiny bit smaller. What I do then is I take 2 sheets of printing paper, I spray a 505 basting spray on one of the sheets, put the other on top and give it a little press, and then take them apart again. That will spread out that temporary basting spray on both of the sheets. Then it's just sticky enough to put on that Teabag paper, and then I run the printing sheet and the Teabag paper sheet through my printer and I can print on my Teabag paper. Yeah, So that's a little trick if you want to print on your Teabag paper for such a project, big project as this one, then you don't have to trace all those patterns by hand. Those are the 3 types of paper that I use: freezer paper, Teabag paper, and sometimes normal printing paper. There are a few more types of paper that you can use for foundation paper piecing, but before we dive into that, I want to share about the Sugaridoo Happy Notes quilt along with you. This is my new book, Happy Notes. It is filled with happy foundation paper piecing patterns, and we're going to do a quilt along with it. In the back of the book there's a whole section with true to size foundation paper piecing patterns, so you don't need to scale anything. All the blocks from this quilt are in the book, and with a year-long quilt along, we're going to do monthly live videos here on YouTube, and we're going to sew this quilt together. There also is a smaller version of this sampler, which is also an option to do in the quilt along. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you want to join, if you're interested, go to sugaridoo.com/happyquiltalong, happy QAL. There you can find all the information about the quilt along, and you can sign up for free. The only thing you need is this book that's available on my web shop, or the ebook version if you want to download it. So go check that out, and I would love for you to join in and sew along with us in this quilt along. Okay, back to the final part of information that I wanted to share with you, because of course there are more types of paper in the world than just the 3 that I mentioned. So for a printing paper that is easy to rip away, you could also use newspaper, or you could use a very thin type of paper that you can still run through your printer. There also are special foundation paper piecing papers, like for example foundation paper. Those are specially made for foundation paper piecing. You can Google that or check it out. There are different types that are letter or A4 size, so they run through your printer. And those are also nice options for foundation paper piecing. The reason that I love Teabag paper especially is because it's so thin, and you can it's just really easy to sew on, and you can leave it behind your fabrics. But foundation paper, for example, is a little bit thicker than this, but also nicely see-through, and it's easy to rip away from behind your fabric. Something else that also exists is water-solvable paper. For example, Sulky has it, and I will put the name here. I just don't remember the name that the paper has. You can print on it, you can stitch on it, and then when you immerse it in water, is it called immerse? When you soak it in water, the paper will dissolve, and that will leave you with just the fabric. I have tried that on a very small project. I loved it, but I can't imagine yet, or picture yet, what it would do when you have a big quilt like this sewn onto that, and you need to rinse it away, because the water turns a little bit into a gluey kind of water. You do feel the residue of the paper that is dissolving, logically. So I don't know, maybe that you have to submerge this quilt in a bathtub to get that paper all soaked out. But it's definitely something that I need to test out again. But yeah, that's just wanted to mention that's also an option. So there are also water soluble papers available, and that will also be a cool option to do for smaller foundation paper piecing. So there you have it, my take on paper for foundation paper piecing. I hope this helps a little bit. If you have questions about paper for foundation paper piecing, just drop them in the comments down below, and I'm happy to answer them for you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the Happy Notes quilt along. We are starting on the 22nd of November, so I hope I can sew along with you then. Thank you so much. See you. Bye.